Hello Thrive Nation, trusting that you Thrivers are really thriving in this crazy corona coaster world, not merely just surviving but thriving. And I've got a really incredible guest on the show today, and I met him in December, and there was just a sense of peace with Mark, and he's from the Mindful Revolution, and it's just a privilege to have some of his time on the Saturday morning. I was just overwhelmed by his presence, just the calmness and peace that came with this man. And so we decided to do a podcast in 2021 amidst the chaos and amidst the storm of life. And so welcome to the Made to Thrive show, Mark Joseph.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for the great introduction.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, it's really, thank you for inviting me and for giving me the opportunity to share with you my passion, my love, and to contribute to your work as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
It really is a wonderful experience to be, great to be here.
When we engaged on the beach, I still remember the moment, there was just such a connection, maybe a connection of souls, but just really just a presence you had, and yet you've got such an incredible backstory that I want to get into.
Sure.
But can you, for the listeners and for the viewers on YouTube, just define what mindfulness is?
Okay. So there's many definitions of mindfulness. The one I love the most is by Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn, who really is, I would say, the father of Western mindfulness. He really started the work with mindfulness practice in the 1980s at the University of Massachusetts, and he started something called the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program, MBSR for short. And he published a book called Full Catastrophe Living, which is all about his work with mindfulness practices with his patients that were suffering from bypass surgery, back surgery, a lot of pain management, stress management, etc. And he had phenomenal results. In fact, people improved dramatically. So he defines it, and I'll give you the extended definition, because I built an entire program just around this definition, a 13-week program around this definition. Mindfulness can be cultivated by paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, and in the present moment. And with three attitudes of non-judgment, open-heartedness, and non-reactivity.
Okay. Yeah. Can you repeat that? Because I think that's there's a mouthful of words there, but I think it's so profound. Yeah. I'm busy trying to think process it.
So there's 4 P's and 3 attitudes. That's how you remember.
4 P's and 3 attitudes.
4 P's and 3 attitudes. Mindfulness can be cultivated. It's a cultivation by paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, and in the present moment. There's your 4 P's.
Okay.
With 3 attitudes: non-judgment, open-heartedness, and non-reactivity.
Okay, brilliant. And I see you're so passionate about it as well, and it's become your life calling, really, to introduce this into people's lives, into the corporate space, and you've got a lot of sort of experience in the corporate space. Just tell us about the lie of the land in South Africa, where most of your work is. Is there been an uptake with mindfulness?
Yeah. So I've been with Mindful Revolution for the last 2.5 years. Before that, I was the managing director of an advertising agency. For 5 years, I was an MD, but all the while, since for the past more than 20 years now, I've been running workshops and teaching meditation and mindfulness. And every year I've seen it grow in terms of the research backed by science, etc., and neuroscience really standing by people like Jon Kabat-Zinn making enormous waves in the world, and many that followed on from Jon. And then a lot of my work, when I started work with Mindful Revolution, I was in the corporate space, particularly the financial sector, going into boardrooms, running programs, running workshops. People still very skeptical. What is mindfulness? And strangely enough, the male audience, more than the female audience, the female audience were loving it, and they embrace it, whereas the guys are taking a little bit longer to get into it, strangely enough. But yeah, so those sessions were, say, 10 or 20 people in a boardroom, and I would literally go into various financial institutions to run those live sessions. Then the pandemic happened, And I was holding onto my hat thinking, well, what now? You know, my career's over. And I decided to do a 21-day online meditation challenge. And I just said, you know, I put it out there on social media. Anybody wants to join, just click on this link, join. I was on Zoom and Facebook. And within a week, I started getting a big response from our clients saying, we also want this for our banks. Can you run a challenge for us? Can you run a challenge for us? So before I knew it, I was waking up at like 4 in the morning and going to bed late at night, just trying to cope with the demand. Sure. I can't say it was really great for my mental health, which is the irony.
Yeah.
But it became. I mean, just to give you an example, on Monday I've got an hour session with 600 people online. Fantastic. You know, in one go. So I could never reach out to that many people live. Actually, I mean, I could, but with the organization and the logistics would just be unbelievable. But now, you know, you got a link, you click on, and boom. So in October, I was literally running a mental health, because October's mental health month. I ran a 21-day mental health challenge, and I was literally speaking to 1,000 people a day.
Sure, well done. Great, and you might be feeling really stressed and anxious in this time, and my 22 years of experience and practice in the natural medicine field in my other life, I've never seen more sort of mental ill health, just anxiety, depression, insomnia. And can you speak into those, hey Mark? I mean, really, it's just this pandemic has caused significant issues. People have had really a poor foundation with the emotional and mental health, and the pandemic came, and a lot of the cracks started showing, and not even cracks, people started burning out, they started falling over, they just had no stability and reserve, you know, to deal with this pandemic. What's happened in the last sort of 14 to 16 months?
Yeah, it's been enormous, Steve. I mean, hence the reason why our work has exploded. People never really took mindfulness and stress reduction as seriously as they do now. And I think a main reason is the pandemic has taught us that health is number one. Churches closed down, businesses closed down, everything closed down because of health. And I think it was humbling, because we always thought maybe other things were a priority, and then at the end of the day we were looking at health and going, my health is number one. And I often ask the question to people, what is the most important thing in your life? And everybody says family. And I say, yes, but if you didn't have your health, you wouldn't have your family.
That's right.
Or you'd be a burden on your family. So your health is the most important thing.
Okay, fantastic.
You know? So I see, you know, people talk about flattening the COVID curve, but there's another curve that's been going on, and that's the stress curve. So not everybody is a victim of COVID, but everyone has suffered some stress, you know, from panic buying to having loved ones pass on, to actually getting ill, to losing financial means. I mean, I think we've all experienced loss, Steve.
Yeah, that's right.
I had a ticket booked to the States. I had 2 weeks to go, and it was cancelled, you know. So, yeah, not a big loss, but for me, it felt terrible. It was a bucket list thing. And we've all experienced loss. And we've also been through massive change. And as human beings, we don't like change. Now, all of a sudden, you're not going into your office anymore. You're sitting at home. You're in lockdown. You're now having to make your house your office. You're dealing with your children that are online schooling. They're going through massive change. They're suffering from anxiety. You're trying to keep it together. Perhaps in South Africa, you know, we're so fortunate to have domestic help. You know, a lot of people couldn't come in anymore. We had to vacuum, iron, clean stuff, you know, and balance our life and our kids' life. It was just tremendous. And really, Steve, to see the loss, you know, I haven't lost anyone. I've had relatives that got sick, but some people have just lost so much. You know, they've lost like their mom, dad, uncles, aunties in 1 month. And I've seen a lot of that going on, and it really is heartbreaking. And every time you turn on the news, you know, there's these images of people on ventilators, and it's horrific. It's shocking. And it's burst a bubble for most of us about what life should be or is to what it is now.
Yeah, that's great. And we are going to be doing a practical session of mindfulness. Mark Joseph is, you know, a partner at Mindful Revolution, if that's correct. That does obviously a lot of online. The pandemic has helped your online part of the business. Still going to be doing lives, I assume, in the future.
I'd like to.
Yeah, when that opens up. Because there's probably a different dynamic that you can sort of let us know between the online and the live. But you did mention meditation. Now, what is the difference between mindfulness and meditation?
So some people can practice mindfulness and not practice meditation. And that was really interesting for me, because I was initially trained in the Eastern schools of mindfulness. I spent a year in the East, and I lived in the Himalayan monasteries, and then I lived in a temple for 3 years.
Wow.
And I almost becoming a monk, but I think too naughty to become a monk. So it wasn't for me. I mean, it's very austere, and I respect it very, very much. It's the difference between mindfulness and meditation. So meditation is I would say it's the active ingredient or the intensive component of mindfulness. You are choosing to cultivate awareness in the present moment on purpose, in a particular way. So I'm now sitting, I'm aware of my posture, I'm aware of my breathing, and I've dedicated 10, 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes sometimes, however long you want to sit for, to that particular practice.
Okay.
And we call that meditation. Mindfulness, on the other hand, and it's a part of mindfulness, right? But I could be sipping this water mindfully.
Okay.
And slowly, the way I put it down on the table carefully, mindfully, the way I choose my words when I speak to you, that's mindful.
Okay.
My awareness in this moment. You know, there's a wonderful Vietnamese mindfulness master called Thich Nhat Hanh, and he had an interview with Oprah Winfrey, and she said, "When are you meditating?" And he said, "Right now, while I'm sitting here, while I'm talking to you."
Okay.
So that's quite abstract. Meditation for me is really just choosing a particular time to practice mindfulness.
Okay.
And there are many, many different types of meditations and many, many different forms of mindfulness. There's mindful walking, there's mindful exercising. I mean, yoga is such a mindful process if you have the right teacher. And yoga, the word yoga literally means to yoke. It's a Sanskrit word, and it comes into English as yoke. And yoke is what you put on the cattle, you know, to keep them together. It means to join. And to join what? To join mind, body, and spirit. To bring them together.
So that's incredible, that concept of mindful walking, you know, mindful exercise. I think of my running, having done so much running over the last, 25 years, 35,000 kilometers. And for me, it's just such a mindful practice, because I'm so aware emotionally, physically, mentally about what's going on. There's this whole practice of chi running. You know, I've got a Chinese medicine background, and how you can just allow chi to flow, and just for you to be in the moment. And possibly that's why I don't like running with anyone, because I almost lose sometimes that awareness.
Absolutely.
You know, when I do run, although you can, as you said, you're mindful right now, so you can do mindfulness with someone else, but there are possibly times that you need to meditate when you're in the presence of someone, but then meditate when you're on your alone. Tell us about the differences of mindfulness when you're engaging others and when you're on your own, and what is the ratio about how you should do it, when you should do it, how often you should do it.
How often you should do mindfulness?
Yeah.
Well, the research is from Harvard University. There's a professor called Ellen Langer who I follow her work really carefully. She's quite an eccentric lady. Mindful Revolution actually brought her out to South Africa to run workshops. She did a big thing at Sun City, and yeah, she's phenomenal.
Did you say Sun City?
Sun. I guess which part of it, yeah. And she says that, I mean, she doesn't believe in meditation. She says for her, mindfulness is noticing new things, walking into a room, looking around, and bringing your attention into that particular moment. You know, to be to know where you are and what's going on in that moment. Yeah.
All right, good. So let's go to your backstory. It's interesting. Spent, a lot of time in the East practicing meditation, mindfulness, almost becoming a monk or a rogue monk. Maybe you're the South African rogue monk. But tell us a bit about your backstory, how you ended up there. I think it's a fantastic story for the listeners to hear.
Yeah. So I've always suffered from anxiety. I think I was born anxious. At school, I'd be the kid throwing up out the window of the car or the bus on the way to school because I'm anxious for exams. I didn't see any of the other boys, behaving in that way. I was always uptight. I played rugby. Jake White was my rugby coach at one stage. I remember running onto the rugby field and having panic attacks. My father became I went to the army. After the army, I came out and I realized that something was wrong with my dad. And he had sunk into a depression. And I was living at home at that stage with my mom and my dad. And his depression worsened to the point where he attempted suicide with an overdose of sleeping tablets. And I was fortunate enough to keep him alive. But it was really downhill from there. He slipped into a chemical imbalance and became schizophrenic, bipolar, acute schizophrenia, to the point where his entire reality became warped and very delusional. I hate the word crazy, but it just was really crazy at that time. And I lived with that for about a year. And I went to work one day. I was working, a young guy at 21 years old, had a job at a video shop. I don't think there are any video shops anymore. Came home and my father had died from suicide. And I tried to save him again, but it was too late. So I got a job in an advertising agency a few months after that, and my panic attacks that I used to suffer from really intensified. And I would have between 10 to 20 panic attacks a day.
Sure.
And I used to purge. So I used to throw up with the panic attack, couldn't breathe, and it just got out of hand, and I had to do something about it. And naturally, when you go to a GP, they say, oh, okay, panic attack, anxiety, prescription for anti-anxiety medication. And I actually had a big problem with that, because my dad, every day I would watch him swallow a handful of pills, and his personality changed tremendously, and I really felt that they weren't serving him. And I know that psychiatry's come a long way since the 90s, but I didn't want to put my health in the hands of psychiatry. I wanted to do it myself, and I thought there must be a natural way. And I was very fortunate to meet someone who my mom sent me to. I was really lucky. I thought she was like a shrink, and I'm sitting there like, I'm going to talk about my problems, blah, blah, blah. She said, no, I just want you to breathe. I was like, what? She said, no, there's an Indian technique. It's called Nadi Shonana, and you just alternate nostril breathing deeply for 10 minutes, switching nostrils, breathing. And I thought, man, this lady's wasting my time, wasting my money. And she said, okay, now you're a young guy, no alcohol, no marijuana, no late nights, practice this breathing, cut out coffee. come back to me in 2 weeks' time. Well, you know, I had nothing to lose, Steve. I was desperate because I was in a corporate job. I was in an advertising industry. I was working on the Pick and Pay accounts at the age of 22 years old. I had to do this. And you know what? It worked. Wow. And my anxiety started to decrease. And I practiced this every day. And I started to explore more forms of these types of practices. So that's where it really started for me.
Fantastic. And 2020 for a year for myself, my greatest learning was in breathwork. Yeah, I interviewed one of the world's experts, Patrick McKeown.
Yeah.
He's got a book called The Oxygen Advantage, just written a book called Breathing Cure. Yeah, I'm interviewing him next week again on the Made to Thrive show. But
wonderful.
I've never learned more about breathing than I have in 2020 and what it's done to my stress scores, what it's done to my heart rate variability, how it's improved that, what it's done to my exercise, because now I'm a big runner, as you know, and I'm starting to learn, and it's been so difficult after 25 years of running to breathe in through my nose and out through my nose. And it's been the hardest thing, and I'm going to give Patrick that feedback because I've done a lot of breath work now, and I realize how important that is. But take us through your daily practice of mindfulness. If you want to include, let's just go through your routine, and then I'd like to do a practical session, the two of us, because I think that'll be really beneficial. But possibly you want to include just the breathwork techniques that you do. You know, with my own clients and my corporates, I do a lot of box breathing, and then Andrew Wheel's work, the 4-7-8 process, and it's basic breathwork, but I think it's really like important, and I think it's really effective. But take us through Mark Joseph's daily mindfulness, meditation, and breathwork routine.
Well, look, I start everything with breathing. I've tried to encourage schools to embrace it, to at the beginning of every class, just to get the kids to take 3 deep breaths, breathing in through the nose very slowly, exhaling out the nose, breathing in again through the nose very slowly with control, exhaling with control, breathing in, and then gently sigh the breath out the mouth. Just to do that, and then coming into a normal breath and going into a moment of introspection. How am I now? And to ask myself the question, how am I on a scale of 1 to 10? And if children can or adults can start to understand what the internal landscape looks like, or the emotional weather forecast. Am I stormy? Am I sunny? Am I partly cloudy with scattered thunder showers? You know, it's vital. It's actually the foundation of emotional intelligence, you know, which is really the cornerstone is self-awareness and self-management, and then other awareness and other management. But if we don't know how we're doing and where we're at, we can't manage that process with somebody else, never mind ourselves. Yeah, so in my practice, I would start then definitely with some breath work. I have a regular practice of yoga, where I believe that movement is vital. And yeah, so I would go into a lot of work with the body, and being aware, being very conscious. It's really John Kabat-Zinn's work of body scanning, body awareness, and really connecting my mind and my body together. Because I feel that in this modern day age, people's bodies and their minds are separate. They're disconnected. They're unsynced. We're out of sync. We just feel that our bodies are something to move our brain to meetings, you know, and different phone calls. But there's an intelligence in the body, and I know you know that with all your work that you do. And the body is incredibly intelligent. I mean, I don't need to be conscious of my breathing. My body's just breathing. You know, if it was up to me, I'd get distracted, forget to breathe, dead. You know, because I mean, but this body is just, the heart beats, the organs work, and it breathes itself, and it's vitally intelligent. So bringing that awareness into the body. There are various practices that I do, Steve, so I would mix it up. Some other practices of just breathing, just resting your awareness on your breath. Other practices of labeling, of watching how the mind forms judgments and concepts, and then just observing how the mind does that. which is a wonderful technique of labeling. Labeling sensation, labeling sound. Oh, there's a car going by. What kind of car is it? No, it's just sound. You know, just sound. You'd say sound. Sensation in the body. What is that sensation? No, it's just a sensation. Thought. Just a thought. Just watch whatever arises and catch it. You know, just shine the light of awareness on whatever is arising for you. To know that you are, to be aware of awareness. And then other practices of loving kindness, in ancient practices of metta bhavana, which means in Sanskrit loving kindness meditations, to really develop a compassionate heart, which beautiful practices. And then other practices more coming from the Eastern schools of the Dalai Lama, very, what can I say, wisdom-oriented schools about reality as such, and what is real and who am I? Big question.
So let's distill it a little bit, sort of practical sense. You wake up, what is the first thing you do, and what exactly, how many breaths do you take, and what techniques of breath work? So if someone's listening out there and they're saying, you know what, Steve and Mark, I'm anxious, I'm not sleeping well, I'm waking up in the middle of the night, tell me, I'm waking up in the morning and I'm in a stressed out zone, I feel like I'm overwhelmed, I can't cope. What do you do when you wake up in the morning?
So amazingly, they say that cortisol levels are the highest in the morning as we wake up. And the reason for that is that as we wake up, we think of the day ahead. So I often use the word that we are time travelers. Ellen Langer says we spend 47% of our day in an unmindful autopilot state. And a lot of that autopilot state is moving into the future and moving into the past. So immediately we wake up in the morning, we think about our day, we're traveling into an unknown future, we're anxious because of a very neural wiring. And the first thing we can do is just to come back to our breathing, to make a point of, as you wake up, to go into some form of meditation. Now, a lot of people say, well, I'll just lie in my bed and do it. Bed's the worst place to do it. You actually have to get out of bed and have a little space where you can sit. You can sit in a comfortable chair. You know, if you're a yogi, you can sit, cross-legged or in the full lotus position, or you can lie down. But just get out of bed, because you might just go back to sleep. Your mind is still very dull. So that your posture, everything is also very important. The way you sit. I sit in the full lotus position for about 40 minutes. That's because I've over time been able to get myself into that position, and it forces my body to sit correctly. But you don't have to sit that way. You can sit cross-legged, half lotus, or in a chair is fine. So the posture is very, very important. Nice back nice and straight, the chin slightly tucked in, and a lot of people look like they're going to war with themselves. A little bit of a smile, hands resting in your lap or on your knees. And then there's a book called The Stress Code by Richard Sutton. I don't know if you've read it. I really, really enjoy his work. Very profound, and South African author. And he talks about the various different techniques of breathing. What you've mentioned, the box breathing, the 4-7-8 breathing. These are techniques that I work with a lot with myself and with my clients. The alternate nostril breathing, which is really just placing the right thumb your thumb on the right nostril, your index finger on the forehead, and then just breathing in through the left. And then taking your middle finger, closing the left nostril, and exhaling right. And then inhaling right. Closing the right nostril with the right thumb, opening the left nostril, and exhaling left. And then inhaling left. And just continuing with that process for a few minutes. Richard Sutton recommends 10 minutes. where if you're doing that for 10 minutes a day, and he actually says any kind of breathing, as long as you're breathing 5.5 breaths a minute. Now I can breathe easily 2 breaths a minute, you know, and really slow it down. Now what happens when you're doing that is you are moving from the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight, flight, or freeze state, and you're gently bringing yourself back into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest, digest, and thrive state. And that's where healing occurs. That's where you're feeling great, you're feeling energized, and we can just do that through the breath. So you're calming yourself, you're doing some breath work. He recommends 10 minutes. I think it's, you could get yourself into a state even after 5 minutes of deep breathing, and then let go of that deep breathing process and just settle on a soft breath. And then I would then move into a feeling of gratitude. I'm grateful for this morning. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for everything. Just to reflect on the things that I've done, who I am, and what I've got. So I really go into a practice. I feel gratitude is such a healing mindset, and abundance, gratitude, and not just for everything else, but for yourself. You know, because we always forget ourselves. You know, to be grateful that you're fit and healthy, and that you go for runs, and you do these wonderful shows for people, and you enrich other people's lives, and the work that you do, and go, geez, Steve, you know, you're doing such great stuff. And it's not egotistical. I find that's very important. I've got a friend who said, you'll never be happy if you're not happy. It's very simple, isn't it? But just be happy. Just spend some time just for thinking of gratitude for yourself, for the things you do, for what you've got, and life. And then moving into, for me, just a process with the breath, then moving into the body, whatever is arising, recognizing that as an arising, trying not to get into a story, but to practice just disengaging and detaching as those stories are arising, going, Chade Menteng from Google, he wrote a book called Search Inside Yourself. He was a Google technician. He had a passion for mindfulness. He became the Google mindfulness guru. And he says you develop something called HD resolution of mind. I like that term. He says, where you can start to see clearly. You start to see what you're thinking about, your inner narrative. What am I saying to myself? Am I talking to myself kindly, or am I bringing myself down? And most people are not even aware of what they're saying to themselves. So it's just to develop that clarity of mind. What is my mind actually talking about today? What is going through my mind?
Okay. And
then to end it with a loving kindness practice, loving self-kindness, self-compassion. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I be at peace. And then thinking of somebody else, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you live with peace.
Sure.
And every day you choose a different person. And that person might be someone you're having conflict with. You know, if you really want to crack open your heart. And then imagining all beings as happy, healthy, living in peace and safety. You know. And then doing a dedication. I dedicate my practice every day to my health and the health of everybody else.
Wow. Okay, so you start with that, and you recommend that breathwork and gratitude practice, and then just being kind to yourself, compassionate to yourself, loving yourself, and then kind and compassionate to others with your words and your thought. And I just want to sort of blow something into that as you're busy doing that, and then you have a thought, hey, I should have done that yesterday. I've got this big presentation that last time I absolutely made a big mess of. I was unkind to my wife, and I was short and angry with her. What do you do as soon as that thought comes into your mind? What are the steps?
Great question. I mean, I love this interview. I love all the questions that you're asking. Thank you. So Steve, when I was in the Himalayas and when I lived in a Buddhist monastery for 3 years, I mean a temple, yeah, I didn't actually practice the right meditation. I had the right meditation, but my relationship with myself was bad. Because I had a wrong idea of what meditation was. I had an idea that meditation was about stopping thoughts and about 100% focused.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's what everyone thinks. And that's wrong. That's like a demon in someone's mind. So the way it would go for me is, and for everyone that's ever practiced meditation, and the majority of people say, I can't do this, I can't switch my mind off. And I go, oh, whoever told you that is so wrong.
You're not supposed to be switching your mind off.
No, if you want to switch your mind off, then drink a bottle of whiskey or something and
which is what people are doing. And they're just they're numbing themselves. They don't want to hear anything. They want to reject that, which is part of them. It's part of their story. It's part of their narrative, and they're pushing it out. They almost got division within themselves, and anything that's divided will fall.
Yeah, exactly. We're facing ourselves. And when I say that, people automatically go, I don't want to face myself. It's because nobody wants to do that. And it's actually when you start to develop a relationship with yourself, it's a beautiful thing. You fall in love with yourself and you enjoy being in your own skin. And it doesn't matter if you're lonely or you don't have your phone with you. You can sit and drink a cup of coffee and at Starbucks or whatever and be totally content with yourself. So the relationship I had with myself, Steve, is that as I'm sitting there focusing on my breathing, focus. The monks can do it so well. You know, you need to be razor sharp in your focus. Very hard on myself, very Sergeant Major like rigidity coming from the army with that discipline of military infantry. Like, come on. And then what happens is failure. Thought arises, something else. I catch myself. I go, damn it! And I used to have that. I mean, Mr. T voice. I don't know if you remember from the A-Team. That guy, B.A. Baracus.
Yeah.
Crazy fool, crazy fool.
Yeah. Okay.
So it'd be like crazy fool every time. Now I'm losing the object of my focus. Because I'm really believing that I'm supposed to be razor sharp focused, and this is what it's supposed to be like. I'm calling myself crazy fool again and again and again. So for about 7 years of meditation, I beat myself up terribly.
Sure.
You know,
yeah.
Thinking that was a spiritual path, and I realized that I was harming myself. That it wasn't actually. I mean, I was experiencing the benefits of being more peaceful, calming my nervous system, but really not. The inner dialogue was not great. Now, what I teach people is that when you move off the object, you gently encourage your awareness to come back as if it was a little puppy dog. Now, you would never hit the puppy dog. You just say, you know, there's this wonderful relationship with, there's the observer, the objective mind. Science, neuroscience calls it meta-awareness, and the subjective mind. And the subjective mind is like a little puppy dog, you know, and it wanders off, and it's at 47% autopilot mind. Whereas the meta-awareness is the part that you are training the puppy to stay with you. And the puppy wanders off, and you say, come back. And the puppy wanders off and you say, come back. And that has a big impact on what is called neuroplasticity, on the shape of your brain, just through that process.
Okay. So the thought comes into your mind, gee, what I did yesterday was not right. I've been angry at my wife, been short with her, or I failed at the presentation last time. It's now the anxiety starts building. What do you do right then?
Yeah.
The puppy dog that you don't want to whip. You don't want to hit. The thought comes in. What do you do?
Yeah. Well, you just embrace it with loving kindness. So there it is, and you say, okay, I acknowledge that that's going on. I'm not going to suppress it. I'm not going to push it away. There it is. I'm going to sit with it, Thich Nhat Hanh, the beautiful Vietnamese Zen master, would say, hello, my little anger. How are you today? Come sit next to me. Hello, my frustration, my anxiety. I see you. Come sit next to me. Would you like a cup of tea? You know, it's that sort of mindset of just having all these, and not to make them orphans. All these, and they're not necessarily a part of you. They're not you, actually. They're just something it's just an idea, it's a thought, but it's not who you are. And to recognize and say, okay, here are my little orphans, and it's okay, and I'll sit with you, and I'll breathe into you, and I'll be with you. I don't need to unpack you or contemplate you or give you any more energy than you're already taking from me.
Or reject you.
Or reject you, yeah, because they say what you resist persists.
Yeah.
And I had a wonderful experience of that with dogs, actually. You know, we are sitting with a Taiwanese monk, and the dogs came out of nowhere and jumped on us. And some people were loving the dogs, and some people were pushing the dogs away, and someone running from the dogs. And the master said, leave the dogs, sit in your meditation position. What happens to the dogs? They relax, they walk away. He said, your thoughts are the same as that.
Wow, that's profound.
Just sit with it, and then it's that relationship with them. But, you know, in our culture, this is what John Kabat-Zinn says, we're brought up to think that we should be doing something. And often your parents would say, don't just sit there, do something. Whereas John Kabat-Zinn will say, don't just do something, sit there.
Yeah. And that's probably where agency, you know, I read a really good book about agency, about just pausing. Something happens, and now a stimulus comes. Now you want to react instead of respond.
Yeah.
The response is pause.
Yeah.
Just breathe.
Yeah.
You know, then evaluate what's happened, and then respond.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to stop. We got no agency, and you see it with people because they're not listening to themselves. They're just literally reacting to any stimulus. There's been so much road rage. People are just coming and vomiting, whether it's a client or a patient. There's just literally no agency whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, you know, Viktor Frankl, I don't know if you've ever
absolutely. Book on the bookshelf, Man's Search for Meaning, one of my favorites.
I got it next to my bed. And the famous quote, between stimulus and response, there is a space.
Yeah.
And in that space lies my freedom to choose my response. And in that lies my growth and my happiness.
Yeah. Powerful.
So it's about creating a space. And Steve, one of the most amazing things is after my 13-week training, I had one student come to me and say, I said to him, what did you get out of my training? And he said, I got 3 seconds. I was like, 3 seconds? And I was hoping for, I got a daily meditation practice, I'm doing yoga, I'm journaling, I'm having mindful coffees and mindful meals. He said 3 seconds. I'm like, okay. He said 3 seconds when I'm in a meeting and someone says something, I give myself 3 seconds to respond. And it's changed everything for me.
Sure. Powerful.
Yeah.
That's really
and that's
powerful.
That space that Frankl's talking about, even if it's 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But you will never get that 3 seconds if you are not consciously being mindful or training in mindfulness.
Yeah. That's powerful.
You know?
That's powerful. Maybe you want to mention a bit about journaling. I'm a big journaler, and many years I did a journal workshop. I find it's very, very important, and I do different types of journaling techniques, and I think it's powerful. Tell us about a bit about journaling. Do you use it personally? Do you teach it?
Yeah, very much so. So journaling is a huge part of my work. I encourage everyone to journal. Keep a daily journal. So a lot of it is, for me, it's a lot around values.
Okay.
Identifying one's personal values. Now, most people that you talk to, they have no idea what their personal values are. So I often go through a process within my courses where I say to people, let's identify your values. How do we do that? Okay, well, let's look at people that you admire and their values. Try and find out what your values are. Let's come up with 10 or 6. And then you've got those values. Let's say it's honesty or integrity or authenticity. So, okay, fine. Day 1, journal authenticity. Heading, how have I honored this value today? Day 2, loyalty. How have I honored this value today? You've got 6 days or 7 days, 7 values, 6 values, however days. You just keep repeating them. Open your journal, tracking your values. It is vitally important to goal setting and living a successful and fulfilled and happy life is by maintaining our values. The Buddhists are very, very passionate about this. They have something called the 10 virtues. And they track these virtues. It's called tunjuk in Tibetan. So the monks would have stones that traditionally, they'd have black stones and white stones in a bag that they carry around with them. And if they have a positive thought or a word or an action, they take a white stone, put it in their left pocket. Negative thought, word, action, black stone in the right pocket. At the end of the day, they empty their pockets and they look and they say, okay, X amount of black stones, X amount of white stones. Tomorrow I need to try and get some more white stones going on. It's not a judgment exercise. It's like Weight Watchers. If you want to lose weight, you count calories. If you want to increase your level of awareness of ethical and moral conduct, which is ultimately going to lead you to your own personal well-being and happiness, I use journaling as a tracking system.
Yeah, what you can measure, you can sort of manage. Peter Drucker's work, and I think that is important, you know, specifically for more personalities than others. There's a fantastic virtues assessment test called the VAI, virtuesinactions.org. It's something that I take my clients through. It's been very profound. My son, my wife, myself. I know my top virtues well. They know my top virtues, because when they know my virtues and values, they can honor that and I can honor them. So we'll put that in the show notes. A really, really profound little assessment, and you can go and check it out and use it. But my number one value and virtue that people know in my life and my family, my close friends, is love of learning. And so that's what I do. I do it 24/7. Even just, you know, just the process of learning just excites me, and that's something that I want to tick.
I've seen that in your son as well, which is amazing. It's a wonderful quality. And I love learning as well. I'm a complete mental health geek. You know, anything on the subject, I just absolutely enjoy and love. So values, I mean, I'd love to see that work.
Absolutely. It's incredible.
It really, really sounds exciting. And you know, I think a lot of people, when they realize what their values are and they look at the values of the company they're working for, and they say, do my values align with this organization? And I went through I work with Discovery Health, and we do a lot of value training with them. And they've really into their values. They got, you know, a very solid set of values, and they encourage their star performers or their employees to really know them and to learn them and to practice them.
Great. Wonderful. But let's make it experiential. We've got about 10 minutes left, and so let's take myself through a mindfulness practice, what you would do with one of your clients or one of the people that you're working with. Let's go for it.
Okay, cool. Right, so let's choose, let's just sit a little bit more upright. You can have both your feet firmly on the ground, okay? Feeling that little, maybe moving the lower back away from the backrest, and your hands can be in your lap or on your knees, whichever you prefer. You can just move the shoulders a little bit. There we go, and then just relax them, drop them down. Dropping the chin slightly down, relaxing the jaw. And your eyes, you don't need to close your eyes if you don't want to. You can leave them slightly open. It all depends if you're feeling tired or if you're feeling anxious or overwhelmed. If you're feeling like sort of very lively, then close your eyes. But if you're feeling sleepy, then I would recommend just opening the eyes slightly. There's always this balance between dullness and sort of excitedness. So it's like riding a bicycle. It's just finding that balance, and the way we sit sends a signal to our brain. All right, good. So we're going to start just with 3 simple rounds of breathing. Let's breathe in through the nose, breathing in, holding the breath, and then exhaling out the nose with control. Breathing in again through the nose. Just holding it there for a moment. Exhaling out the nose with control. And last big breath in, breathing in. Holding, open the mouth and gently sigh the breath out. Coming now to a normal breath. Breathing through the nose if you can. You may find that your breath is slightly deeper. We don't try and control the breath too much right now, just breathing relatively normally. And let's just choose a point of focus. We can either choose to focus at the tip of our nostrils, or you may find it better to focus on your chest. As you breathe, there's a slight sort of expanding, and as you exhale, a slight contracting. Or you may find the movement noticeable in your abdomen as you breathe. The belly expands and contracts on the exhalation. Just choose one point of focus right now. And as you breathe, be aware of the movement in the body. The body is breathing. Connecting your mind and your body. There's nowhere to go, there's nothing else to do, but be here now. You may find that your mind has already started to wander, thinking other thoughts. That's normal, no problem. When that happens, instead of feeling like we've failed at this, which is incorrect, we observe that the mind has wandered, we recognize and we say, okay, it's fine, come back to the breath. And we do that again and again and again, and every time we do that, we're building our prefrontal cortex. Finding the breath once again at that chosen point. Try not to focus too much. Many of us are very A-type personalities. Relax. 30% focus on the breath. Just give up striving. Rest. We don't have to be perfect at this.
Sure.
We move into some affirmations. May I be happy. Imagine yourself being happy. May I be healthy. Imagine we could just breathe health in as if it was in the air. May I be safe. And may I be at peace.
Beautiful.
Thinking of someone else now. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. And may you be at peace. So let's just take our hands, rub them together, generate some energy, some heat, and place them over your eyes and just feel that energy. And gently move your hands away and you can open your eyes and come back into the space.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Wow, that was really, really cool to do it in the show. Wow, that's profound. I'd love to have you on the show again. What
I'd
an
love to
incredible,
be back again.
incredible time.
Yeah.
Just tell people where they can find you, where they can connect with you, how can they just engage with you. I think this is for every single person, whether they're 5.
Yeah.
I've started teaching my daughter to breathe. She says to her teacher, you can't breathe through your mouth the whole time like that. She knows how to breathe through her nose. So I think it's from young to old. Where can people connect with you?
Yeah, I think my email address is probably the best way. It's Mark, M-A-R-K, at mindfulrevolution.io. Okay. You can drop me a line if you've got a question or something. I'd be happy to help you. The website is also www.mindfulrevolution.io. And we're busy launching an app at the moment as well called WellMind. And the app will soon be available. Not at the moment, but it's a very corporate offering, but we're very excited about it. So watch the space. Hopefully it'll be available and accessible to everybody soon. Yeah.
Well, I declare favor and blessing and peace for you, that love and compassion be your fragrance wherever you go. Thank you for this precious time and that we were mindful together. Privilege, absolute privilege. And to you thrivers out there, mindfulness, meditation and breathwork, spread the word, be compassionate, kind and loving, delight in your purpose and be surrounded.
Thank you.